right. Welcome, Jim. And please correct me if I pronounce your last name incorrectly. Rome or Room?
No, that's correct. It's Rome, like the
Rome.
city in Italy.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Before we get started into the articles that you've written for inspirational and just helping everybody along their journey, can we get a little bit of background on you? Are you originally from Colorado?
I am. I'm a Colorado native, so I grew up in what we called then North Denver. I think
Okay.
now you would call it the Highlands,
Okay.
um, by Sloan's Lake. And after graduating from high school, small private school, Holy Family, when it was over by the old Elitches, then I went to Colorado College.
Okay.
And at Colorado College, that's where I met my wife. After we graduated, we got married. We had two daughters who are 34 and or 35 and 32 now. And then I went into education, and I spent 34 years in education. I was 20 years in the classroom
Oh,
as a
wow.
teacher, and then 14 years as assistant principal. And I'm a little bit different in that I spent 32 years in the same building. So
Oh,
I
wow.
was at Eagle Crest High School in
Okay.
different roles for those 32 years.
Oh my
And then,
goodness.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So, I will always refer to myself as a teacher.
Mhm.
Um, but then when I quit working in that building, then I went into freelance writing, and I am the creator of something called Voices We Miss, which is a program where I talk with older citizens,
Mhm.
usually in retirement homes, and their family and friends come. And it's what I'm finding with that is that it's a way to educate, entertain, and
Mhm.
more importantly, connect. I've heard people at the ends of those interviews say, "I didn't realize you were from the same spot I was." But
Yeah.
they live, 30 feet apart. They just don't talk about those things.
Yeah. Isn't it something? You never know what you may have in common with people, but also the wisdom.
Oh, Dale, it's incredible, and powerful stories of overcoming things.
Mhm.
Um, One of my very favorite is this woman who I spoke with who had epilepsy so she's in the 1950s, and she is in school, in high school, and they're ridiculing her. They're saying things like, "Nan, you're stupid, and don't talk. We don't want to hear you." And then in the midst of this story, she says to me, and then there was this one boy who went on to Harvard, and he stood up and he said, "No, Nan is not stupid. She is smart, and we're not going to do this anymore."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
out of that, she said, "Jim, they never did it again. People talked to me differently." She said, "He was absolutely my angel." It was
Oh my
just a
goodness.
powerful story.
You can learn so much from our Asian community, as I call it. I just had the pleasure of interviewing Gretchen and Jeannie. They're writers for Colorado media, just like yourself, and they support the Asian community here in Douglas County, keeping everyone active, but also just giving them a voice, someone to talk to and support them, in many ways. I'm getting a little bit of feedback. I don't know if that's,
I am not. Do you want me to try and?
let me see. I don't know if it's, 'cause you only have one microphone on, right?
And it's through the computer.
Okay. Okay. We should be fine. It was just a little bit of feedback, but no worries.
Okay.
So before let's go ahead and actually jump into your MS diagnosis, I guess, because that's kind of how the gateway to your writing
Yeah.
got started. So if you can kind of take us back, you were teaching. Was this after you stopped teaching or before?
No, it was 2009.
Okay.
Um, I think what would be helpful to understand is that
Mhm.
I was a two sport college athlete,
Okay.
Small school, right? Division 3, not a great athlete, not someone you would have seen on TV, but I was better than most when you take the whole population. And I went into education and my marriage and my work as a father, and just kind of that, I'm going to push through things. I'm going to be that hard worker, be that person that makes a difference, but I'll use my strength to get there. And then in 2009, I was assistant principal, and I was playing a pickup game of basketball with some of the other staff members on a Friday morning in January of that year. And I was running down the court after a basket, and I tripped, just tripped. As I struggled to regain my balance, I realized that my right leg was not working correctly. It felt tingly. It felt slow to respond when I wanted to move. And I started to have weakness in my right arm and right shoulder at the same time.
Okay.
So I tapped out of the game, and I went down, showered and what have you. And 6 weeks later, I was diagnosed with MS.
Okay. Just like that.
Just like that. But
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, Dale, for 3 years, I was in an absolute tailspin. It was awful. I was so hurt. I was so angry. I was just sure that the world was put against me. And my wife, just in a very loving but like no nonsense way, was like, "You've got to figure this out."
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Figure out
so
a way. Yeah. Yeah.
that's exactly right. And I was essentially pouting, trying to figure it out a bit. And I heard an interview by a woman, Laura Hildebrand, who had just finished her book, Unbroken.
Okay.
And
Yes.
that book is about Louis Zamperini. And Zamperini had been an Olympic athlete, and then during World War II, his plane was shot down. He survived the crash.
Yes.
With 2 others.
Yep.
Yeah, you've seen the movie, maybe.
Wonderful story. Oh, yeah.
Yes. And it was in listening to that, and when she got to that spot of explaining why the title was Unbroken, I thought, there it is.
Yeah.
That's what I need to study and understand. And so that started my journey of writing, of learning, and of sharing.
I'm not sure who all you follow in the media or Hollywood sector, but MS is becoming more prevalent. Christina Applegate from Married with Children, 30s. I think she was in her 30s, late 30s when she got diagnosed, along with her coworker on the same show. They both ended up with MS. And, I know we're navigating a broken world. There's no explanations for these things, but we are seeing that these illnesses no longer have an age attached to them.
Right.
Many people are being hit with MS along with many other diseases. So after you were able to kind of lift yourself up, did your faith play any role with that? You had support for your family. What else did you lean on to kind of help you?
In that list of books that I started to read, the Bible was absolutely a part of that. And it's interesting. There's a piece in 1 Kings where Elijah is running away after proving that the one true God would light his sacrifice and not that of the others. And he runs into this cave, and he's exhausted, and this angel shows up and says, God's going to walk by. You need to go out and see him. And then it says that first there was this huge wind, and he didn't go. And then there was fire, and he didn't go. And then there's this earthquake, and he doesn't go. And then he hears this little whisper, and he puts his cloak over his head and he goes outside. And if I were to describe one thing biblically for me that has made such a difference, it's looking for that whisper. And it comes by being aware of your surroundings. It comes in just watching. And so much of, as you look at my writing, so much of it is just these little observations that we don't always take the time for, and they're incredibly inspiring.
Yeah, definitely. I think, we talk to a lot of writers like yourself and people of faith, and, it's this world, to go through it without any faith at all. I just can't imagine, the challenges. And I think that's why you see so many people give up. There's going to be brokenness. Paul had an affliction, which he asked God to take away twice. And I don't know if this is your story, but you can say surrender is key. Whatever you're battling, you just have to give it up, because you can try to cure yourself, you can try to do this and that, but I think at the end of the day, surrender is just so powerful. Just allowing God to kind of carry that load. So you had a good community around you, your family, your wife. So how did you kind of start writing? Did you just start journaling your feelings?
That's a great question. So essentially what happened is my dear friend Shane died in March of 2021, and I retired finally fully in May of that year. So in June of 2021, I'm sitting on the back patio. I have lost a person that I would have called my best friend. I have stopped working at a job that had defined me for 32 years. And what the heck do I do? So I started writing. I'd done that, and I know we'll talk a little bit more about that, but I did that with Shane and his wife as encouragement for them as they were going through that cancer experience. And so I started writing about that full experience. And that led into ultimately making a pitch to the Arvada Press, the Colorado Community Media, and saying, I think that people want to have something positive, and they want to have it consistent, and they want to get to know an individual even though they don't know them in person. And they like that idea, and even through the transition, they've kept me on.
Oh yeah, and so that's kind of COVID, the COVID time period. We were still going through COVID. Depression was high. It was one of its highest rates. I can definitely relate to, I lost my mom during that time too, and we started journaling because my identity, so much of it was in my mom, because she battled mental health her whole life. And when I lost her, when she passed, I just started writing. I couldn't stop. It's like all these stories I wanted the world to know about her, how I grew up, and I'm in the process of working on the book now. But in tragedy, a lot of good things can come out of that. A lot of, and through your tragedy, your writing has come out and evolved.
Absolutely. Could I ask a question? Did you,
yes,
in working with writing about your mom, have you discovered themes within that you were kind of shocked to find? I guess is maybe the best way to say that.
As far as my mom, things shocked.
Just as you said, you've been writing about that experience and are working toward a book. Has the writing uncovered for you themes that you didn't necessarily see, whether it's about your mom or about you or anything else?
Yes, definitely. Just looking at mental illness in a different way. I know she did the best she could. No mother no parents abuse their children without a reason. Something has gone wrong. And with her, it wasn't substance abuse or anything like that. It was a mental health issue. So I just saw the struggles that she went through for 85 years without a clear diagnosis. She lived with like a schizophrenic type mental health issue. And my therapist is like, your mom fought this for 85 years. She was functional to a point, but I discovered her strength, I guess, because she always had her Bible, Jim. She was always praying. She was always reading Psalms. So I think she was aware of her mental health issues, but she was trying to fight it. She was trying to cling on to God. And it was just so beautiful. Throughout all of that, she clinged on to God.
That is a powerful story.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's kind of what I'm working on now. But similar to your situation, I took that pain and I'm hoping to help other people. Maybe grew up in a similar situation, just like you, other people who are fighting MS, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
And one of your, so not to cut you off, so you started writing, you reached out to Colorado media. One of the articles, I guess this was in 2020. Actually, these articles, they came out this year. Let me try to add this to the stage here. One of your recent articles was finding lessons for life, one brush stroke at a time. But I also had some other articles from you as well. These are your most recent. And this is something you wrote about during COVID, how you and your family were able to learn new skills. You learned sign language. You cooked amazing meals, played different instruments, and even tried watercolor painting. I mean, yeah, you found encouragement even through COVID. So what kind of inspired you to, what did COVID look like for you guys? I know you had your diagnosis.
Right. So I was deep in my diagnosis by then. So by then I was 12 years in.
Mm-hmm.
So it was interesting because the kids were, our daughters were all done with college. And Carly, my youngest, had her husband, my son-in-law Joe, and so we had my daughter Kate, Carly, and Joe, myself and Beth, and my mother-in-law. We were all together. We were incredibly blessed in that we had enough space to make that work. And everybody was able to do in a different space their online work. Mm-hmm. Now, it was interesting, and I don't know if people would remember this, but it was actually quite a gorgeous spring that year because my workspace was outside, and it wouldn't have worked otherwise. But yeah, we would do our work, and then we would try and learn together. It was my youngest daughter, Carly, she was an art psych major at Cornell College in Iowa. And so she sat down and taught us how to watercolor. And that was an incredible experience because, Dale, I would not say that in that way I am artistic at all. It's not that I'm not creative, but I once took a college class at CC painting, and I was 3 days into it. And the professor very sweetly said to me, Jim, we're going to have you work on learning how to use shades from black to white through gray, and I'll grade you on that. Well, there were other people who were making these incredible paintings, but my professor was like, we've got to start somewhere else because you're not ready. Love the experience, but it also was like, okay.
Yeah, for me, I actually discovered regrowing vegetables from scraps. I got
Oh,
addicted to avocado seeds, onions. I just saved all these scraps and seeds, and I just started growing my own veggies during COVID.
did you have a place to plant them? And
I actually have a greenhouse in my office here and also on the deck. If I can keep everything safe from the squirrels, because we're kind of out in the country here in Parker, and so there's a lot of wildlife. But yeah, it was just, and I was also listening to Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. And there's a part in the book where he talks about let go of the thrill, discover that silent, beautiful spot. The person who was always rushing to have fun, maybe they'll discover gardening, or they'll discover a beautiful lake. They'll chasing the thrill. You have to let that go. And COVID slowed everyone down, including me. And my grandmother grew vegetables, and I don't know, I guess I'm a little bit like her, but I just love growing vegetables and soil, water, everything. I have avocado plants all over my house.
I love that. But that's also that whisper I was talking about, right?
Yes, yes. The quiet space. And C.S. Lewis, how he puts it, it's just so, so many people don't really connect with him through the Christianity part, but Mere Christianity it was a blessing when I discovered that 10 to 15 years ago. Okay, you guys were doing all of this during COVID. You were discovering new hobbies, and then the writing. You just started. You kept publishing your articles, anything that was on your heart. One of your other articles here. Let me remove this one. I think it was called Resistance and Quit. Let me see here. One second. I'm just gonna
Sure.
remove that one and add your other article here. Um, yeah, Resistance and Quit. This was
Oh,
a
yeah.
story about Virginia Hall.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was one of the highest. Well, she had one of the highest awards given in France, Britain, and the United States. Additionally, the Germans acknowledged her as the most dangerous foreign operative in France. That's interesting.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
what resonated with you with this story?
I'm sorry. What?
Oh, I'm sorry. What resonated with you?
Oh,
I mean, she did some great stuff, but
there are so many things that resonated. The first thing is that she lost her leg below her knee in a hunting accident, and she got this prosthesis, and she named it. She named it Cuthbert, and for me, that very much resonated. When I have trouble walking, um,
Mhm.
sometimes I'll say, "Okay, guys, let's go," and my wife will kind of look at me. I'm like, "Oh, I'm just talking to my leg." We got to step, but she owned it,
Yeah.
um, and within that as well was this whole idea that um, others. Well, let me say it this way: the whole idea that she did not see herself as broken.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
because of that, she could be a powerful force.
Yeah.
And for me, when you remember I talked about, like, I used to power through things. The real blessing in my MS diagnosis is the fact that I use so much more of me, my thinking skills, my communication skills, my skills of observation than I ever did
Yeah.
before I was diagnosed, because I would just power through things.
Mhm.
And so now when I look at the world, it is so much more rich and full of these incredible insights. And are there moments when I'm sad about, not being able to walk 4 or 5 miles, but being really excited if I can go a full mile? Yes. But there are also these doors that opened up, and that for me with her very much was something that resonated.
Yes, yeah, she was. She did quite a bit. I know she was trying to. She was blocked multiple times from entering the U.S. diplomatic service, but eventually she became an ambulance driver for the French at the start of World War II. So she, even though with the obstacle with her leg, she kept going. She was a force of nature.
Well, and it's also interesting. It was the British who recognized what a resource she could be.
Yeah,
And, and so that's a piece that was, it's difficult because the U.S. For a long time didn't acknowledge her in the same way as having the same kind of abilities. We get there, which I love, that whole idea of when we know better, we do better.
mhm.
But yeah, how powerful she was. In fact, in there, Eisenhower says, "Oh, she was critical."
Yeah,
And you think about this. I mean, the Supreme Commander who is saying, "No, she was a difference maker for us." That, for me, is a powerful statement. Okay, so she's missing one leg.
yeah.
That doesn't stop her.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And just to double back on what you were saying before, Jim, you're able to see things now that you really didn't see clearly. It reminds me of a TED talk I discovered a few years ago of a gentleman who went blind in his 30s. And he basically said he was able to see more clearly as a blind person than with his eyesight because um, he had not prejudices, but he was kind of looking at judging the world on what he saw. He was able to, I guess, he was able to see people clearly through their voice and hear things through their voice instead of judging them on looks. And it was just so powerful. He said he feels he missed out on so much. But when he lost his eyesight, he got married again. And he said he just basically became a better person.
Yeah, this is, and we've kind of talked about this throughout, but there are so many blessings in what happens to us.
Yeah.
We cannot be tied to one way of looking at things. Even so, my friend Shane,
Mm-hmm.
he saw powerful blessings, and things that he would not have discovered. It's very sad. Don't get me wrong. That was difficult, incredibly difficult for all of us, and especially his family.
Mm-hmm.
But there absolutely were blessings, and he was very clear about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything that you can look back now in your life? Like, I know everything happens for a reason, but do you think you would have did anything different as far as your career, or do you think you may have would have started writing sooner if you would have knew? It's kind of hard to answer that question, I know, but just kind of like, what do you, when you look back on your life, what do you think kind of would have shifted if you would have knew this?
If I didn't have MS,
Or if you would have knew, I guess, would you do
oh,
any?
if I had known, yeah, if I knew that I was going to have MS, I would have. I think I would have honed skills that I use now sooner. I,
Mm-hmm.
Dale, that's a great question, but I I think that was the fire I had to go through.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could have changed things,
Mm-hmm.
um, because I wasn't slowing down. Like, for me in my writing, I had to be forced into a spot to slow down,
Yeah.
and to sit down, and to change. I've always been a helper. I've always wanted to make a difference for people. That's why I went into education and administration and all of that. But um, at each level, like when I was in the classroom, I could impact 150 kids.
Mm-hmm.
When I was an administrator, I was impacting, you know, we were a large school. We were second largest in the state, so 3,200 kids. But now, I mean, it's a much wider range. When you know, I can be into up to 20 of those small papers across the Front Range, and so my influence keeps growing as these things evolve. And I would not have discovered them. I will tell you that I would not have started writing. I would not have discovered a different way of looking at things if I hadn't been diagnosed.
Yeah.
100%.
Have you thought about speaking at any MS events or speaking to other people going through this battle? Or is that something kind of maybe you've been debating on doing or maybe not thought about?
No, actually, I've done it a couple of times and am always looking for other opportunities. I was at the International Conference of Emergency Managers because of my wife's work, and I spoke to that group in it's not called this, but it's essentially, it was about a 7-minute TED talk on resilience, unbrokenness, and my experience. And then just a little while ago, the Kiwanis in Arvada, Jefferson County, a wonderful group, asked me to speak and talk about those same kinds of things. Yeah, I love speaking about it. I think it's an important piece to be able to talk about resilience and the you know, the realities of it. It's not that there aren't difficult pieces. I do not like the fact that I can't walk down the street and hold my wife's hand. That's difficult for me. But at the same time, there are these other doors and windows that have been opened up that are just beautiful. So there is give and take, and I'm really honest about that. And honest when you know, a bad day. How do you overcome those?
Yeah. There's good and bad days, right? And I think that's part of the surrender journey. And it's okay to grieve. You know, you say you went through a period with a diagnosis, and your wife's like, okay, what are you going to do now? You know, figure, how are you going to move forward with this? But we do have to acknowledge that there's good and bad days, and it's okay to grieve. It's okay to mourn that diagnosis or whatever that might look like, that loss in your life. You know, it's you know, I believe Robin Williams, he had a MS diagnosis before he took his life. I'm correct. And just to speak upon what would you say the importance of faith is in this world? Because when you get a diagnosis of cancer, dementia, MS, whatever, how would you put that into words? The importance of faith, I guess.
Sure. So there was a time when I was fascinated with lighthouses. And in discovering about lighthouses, I came to the answer of exactly what you're asking. Lighthouses, you know, have been around for thousands of years, and the ones that survive are built on this incredible foundation. And for me, faith and family and then purpose are those foundations upon which it's built for me. And then you go a step further with that into the idea of a lighthouse that doesn't help others is without purpose. So you can have a very solid foundation, but if you're not making a difference with that, then why?
You have to, I think, have something. You know, I'm sure you've seen a few of my interviews. I've interviewed people who have lost all their money. they wanted to take their lives. I've seen people who their battle with alcohol. One gentleman jumped out of a window in a hotel and his foot caught the curtain of the window and it's changed its trajectory. He would have died. But basically he was walking in his faith, but still that battle with alcohol was there and so much chaos. And it's just like they're all now saying you have to be careful on what you put your identity in, whether it's in your career, whether it's in your money, whether it's in your family, because all these things are going to let us down. We're all imperfect, we're all broken. So it definitely, I think your identity has to be on something higher or you're going to get crushed. It could be your health.
Absolutely.
Your identity could be in your health.
Absolutely.
I interviewed a bodybuilder and he's like, yeah, I had to come to a place where this is not going to last. My body down here is not going to last, and it's humbling, but also just a wake up call because we see so many people around us putting their money, or I'm sorry, putting their identity in things that are going to let us down. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but it's just, you have to kind of.
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah. So, we're all kind of doing what we can, but at the end of the day, our faith is so important and to us, and it has to kind of be the head. It has to be the head in our life.
Mm-hmm.
So what else do you plan on doing? I know you're doing so much. You're writing, you're encouraging with the articles in Colorado media, the Arvada News. Are you working on some more projects that you?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah. So several different pieces. That story of Shane and all that I went through with that is in a book that's in process, and I have just picked my editor, and will begin that process of moving from having written that, which was a long process, into now then publishing that. I have Tuesday's encouragement. Just a quick funny story.
Sorry, I was trying to get that centered. Okay, go ahead.
No, that's great. Tuesday's encouragement is the title that I chose because Shane always had his chemotherapy on Tuesdays. And so I would send he and his wife an encouraging email the night before so that they could read it on Tuesday morning.
Mm-hmm.
When I started writing for the Arvada Press and the Colorado media, community media, their papers come out on Thursday. So we had to change the name from Tuesday's Encouragement to Words of Encouragement.
Okay.
And then the other piece of that is where we talked about a little bit at the beginning. Voices We Miss is that other project, and it has not.
Site. Okay, it's not on your site here.
It's not up yet.
Okay.
But wow, Dale, and you already kind of hit on this, the power of our oldest generation to share. But also then there's this piece where person after person will say to me, oh, my life isn't very interesting. And then you start talking with them and they're fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, powerful stories that give you lesson after lesson about faith, about determination, about resilience. And I just am absolutely amazed. The thing that scares me is the number of people who don't know about each other.
Yeah.
Just put your phone down and ask a question.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. So those are the things going on. And then just quickly, my oldest daughter, so brave. I'm so proud of both girls and my son-in-law. My oldest daughter is a single mom by choice.
Okay.
And she just had Lucy. Lucy will be 6 months old.
Oh,
and
congratulations.
She is just so dear, to watch her develop. And so if I'm not working on this stuff, we're spending time with that little girl, who is just very, very sweet.
Oh my gosh. Well, congratulations. Well, that's one, children are a blessing, right? Even in the darkness of this world. I'm glad your daughter, had a healthy you have a healthy granddaughter, now.
Yes.
And they keep us young, right?
Oh, that smile.
Yeah.
When she went from gas as what made her kind of smile to recognizing, that was just such a powerful moment.
Oh my gosh, just precious, the things that if we slow down and just enjoy the small things in life, right?
Yeah.
Just appreciate those gifts. So you're doing your Tuesdays encouragement. You're going to continue your writing. You're so positive, and that's what's such a light. I know your story is going to bring a light to so many people. I would love to just hear anything you would like to share in your heart, Jim, about the journey of health battles, how to stay encouraged. Any words that you would like to share? Um,
Yeah, you know what, Dale? What I'm drawn to is, when I started to study what it meant to be unbroken,
mhm.
I started to come up with really some ways to define that. And the first, there were 5 of them really that I've relied on. First is that unbrokenness or brokenness is a conscious decision.
Mhm.
Secondly, that it's the product of the human spirit, not the physical body. That was a big, big change for me.
Yeah.
That if you're going to be unbroken, you have to live in the moment, because brokenness lives in fear of whether it's about 5 minutes from now or 15 years from now. If you're not in the moment, you're going to be battling unbrokenness. That those who are unbroken
Mhm.
will adjust as they need to. You don't change your goal, but all of a sudden you start to look at things and say, just because I can't do it this way doesn't mean that I can't do it. Just because I can't walk 5 miles doesn't mean that I can't be outside on an electric, trike going 5 miles. There are a ton of different options out
Mhm.
there. And then finally, like when we dedicate ourselves to unbrokenness, we will find an incredible depth in our ability that goes well beyond what we ever imagined was possible. And that, Dale, that's where I see God.
Yes.
That's where I see, just doors opening up, because I've worked to be in that spot, to listen and see and appreciate.
Yes. That's beautiful. I totally agree with that. You find God in the brokenness, the darkness, and He's our light, He's our beacon and our map. It keeps us on track and keeps us going. And I do want to backtrack too to something you said earlier. The fear of not being able to hear those stories that haven't been told. Everyone in this world has a story, and that's kind of what I want to do on my podcast. I want those stories to be told, because guess what? If one of those stories reaches one person, Jim, I'm good. I'm good. I'm not about the numbers. It's about changing one life at a time, right?
Yep.
Change one person at a time. We're not going to solve hunger. in this world. That's even in the Bible. Homelessness is always going to be with us in this world. However, you can feed one person and make a difference with that one person. It's
Well, and beyond that, you don't know the ripple of
exactly.
changing that life.
Yeah.
The impact of that can be incredible.
It's a seed, right? You plant that one seed, and someone behind you can come water it. But it just takes that one seed, that one teacher in the fourth grade who told me I should write for a living. I will always remember that because I was going through so much chaos at home. I would just create these whole stories out of my head, you know?
A wonderful example.
Yeah, one teacher.
Yes, yes. Well, and then just kind of in a funny way,
Mm-hmm.
well, maybe not so funny. It can also go the other way because my third grade teacher said that I didn't have a good singing voice. I needed to move away from the microphone. And still to today, I'm like, no, I don't have a good singing voice.
Yeah.
You do need to, if it's
Yeah.
not positive, it needs to stay away.
Yeah, it can definitely affect you, that a bad seed, the coach who said, Michael Jordan, you're not a good basketball player. That
Yes.
that could have stolen his dream,
Yes.
Jim, I think you should keep singing and go do karaoke, because I do karaoke and I love it, and I don't consider myself a great singer, but I do it because it's therapeutic.
I will do that. That's a
Yeah,
great observation.
yeah, because our words are so powerful, and we could cut someone down or we can lift somebody up. It's
It's
so
so
powerful.
true.
It's so powerful. And I'm glad, I did have that positive situation with a teacher. I did come from a good school system in East Texas, but I know that's not the story for a lot of children. But I can definitely tell you are one of those teachers, I'm sure, that encouraged others, students, and motivated them and saw the potential. And they're our future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been fun in my writing because as people just open up those little papers, they'll reach out, and so I've had a number of kids that I taught who have
Mm.
reconnected with me, and that is a special. That's the thing I missed when I left the classroom for administration. I just built such incredible relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Jim, I mean, this has been amazing. We do have a few more minutes. I know you've kind of shared a little bit about what's on your heart, and um, how you would, how we can be a change in this world. Are there any final thoughts that you would like to let the listeners know who are going to watch the shorts from this podcast? Anything that's really sticks out? That any final words? I mean, this is your time to shine.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, I've got a couple of different
Yes,
ways
please.
I would like to go. First of all, if you look at the articles, many of them finish with "You've got it, you've got this," and there's going to be somebody out there, Dale, who needs to hear that. Like,
Yeah.
you've got this, and just one more step. But I would encourage people to look for those positive things. Your podcast, the Tuesday's encouragement, or the
Articles and
piece of the articles, all of those kinds of things. And then I have to tell you that that experience with Shane. So from when he told me over the phone that he was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer, and I was desperately trying to figure out how to be a good friend and how to help. If people run into that, I would say be consistent in whatever you decide. Create something that can help people when they need it. So not on your timeline, but on theirs. And when you do those things, you create such a good space for those who are going through a difficult time. One of the things that I think really made a difference for Shane and his wife Summer was that they could open those emails at any time. It wasn't, here it is, take it now, or I can't do it. It was different than that. And they knew it was going to happen. And those are powerful pieces. You have to be very aware when somebody's in need of what's helpful, what's not. But by watching and being consistent in that, you'll find it. And don't underestimate it. Do not underestimate the power that you can have with small things. For me, right, before I would have been thinking, get over there, mow the lawn for Summer, or shovel the walk. Yes, it's a 30-minute drive, but do that, power through it. And instead, because of this diagnosis and where I've landed, it was something very different, but it touched their heart in a different way because it was me being genuine.
Yes.
And that really does make a difference.
Yes, yes. And just to add to that, not being selfish, but when you reach out and help others in need, it takes your mind off of your situation. I live in Parker, and a good veteran, military vet friend of mine, she had hip surgery. She lives in Westminster, an hour away, and I'm like, do I really want to try? But at the end of the day, just to sit with her after her surgery, even though she was in pain, and maybe a little bit bitter because of the uncomfort, it's just you're stuck at home. But that made a big difference to her, just to have somebody there to listen to her, and to sit in it, because you just never know. And you're making a difference.
Yeah, it is a powerful, gosh, we have just been given such a powerful ability to interact with people. And all of us have that. It's when you slow down and you listen. Yeah, sorry, I'm just kind of coming to that as well.
No,
Listening is an art form.
Mm-hmm.
It truly is an art form. And we all need to practice that. And when we can do that and sit in space with people and listen, it makes a difference.
Yeah, intentional listening, mindfulness. Not thinking about, okay, what am I going to say next? Listening to your words right now, Jim, like right now, and letting them sink deep into you. Yeah.
It absolutely does. And I get why it doesn't happen all of the time, because we're so instant. But that is a powerful gift that we can all give.
Yes, amen.
With everyone, and that goes back into voices we miss as well. Just being able to listen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's important. Well, thank you so much, Jim. This has been amazing. I could definitely take another hour talking to you, because I can tell we could definitely talk about everything, mere Christianity.
Yes.
So maybe we can save that for another time. But thank you again. This has been wonderful. I really appreciate it.
Oh, Dale, I so appreciate you reaching out and everything that you're doing. Truly, it seems like we are on that same path, and it is so exciting to see.
It is. It is. Thank you. And what you said earlier, we're going to see more of this. I definitely think we are. The way the world is going, we're going to see more people like you and me trying to kind of come forward and bring help the world, help those who are struggling in this world. So I definitely look forward to talking with you again. I'm gonna play the exit intro, and then if you can just hang out backstage, and we'll talk after the show. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.